going on, my Century Unit? It's the Sentiment here, so back again with another ECW Supercar Show review. Haven't really done one in quite some time. I need to get back on track reviewing non-WWE pay-per-views, Yeah, I reviewed a TNA pay-per-view recently. That's the first TNA pay-per-view, Victory Road '04. Anyway, so right now, I'm reviewing ECW November to Remember 1994. So, this show was at the ECW Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on the 5th of November 1994. So, this show took place on Bonfire Night. If you're not from the United Kingdom, Bonfire Night or Guy Fawkes Night is basically a time you go outside in the dark and watch the fireworks. You eat, I don't know, hot dogs or burgers, treacle, or maybe a nice toffee apple with its chocolate or toffee. Anyway, the attendance of the show was 1,000. By the way, this is not a pay-per-view. This is a supercar show. Joey Styles on commentary. This is the second annual November to Remember in the original ECW. The first one was in 1993. I don't think you're going to get on the network. Maybe it's probably, you probably find it. It'll probably like count as an episode of Hardcore TV. But yeah, you're not going to find all of the ECW supercar shows on the network. You might find some, but not all. It's just what it is. Yeah, November to Remember. They continue to do this event until the end of the original ECW's existence. The last November to Remember in the original ECW will be at the year 2000, 7 years later. So, before we get to the actual matches on the show, there was two segments. I'm guessing it was two segments, but anyway, so let's talk about the segments before we get to the actual matches on the show. It starts off with 911 and Paulie Dangerously. Paulie Dangerously, aka Paul Heyman, they attack a guitarist. He was playing the American National Anthem. 911 chokeslam the guitarist, and then Paul Heyman's about to say something. Unfortunately, his mic got cut off, and that is the problem. By the way, I watched the network's version of the show. You can find this show on YouTube. I think stick to the YouTube version of the show. I think the network version is a bit because you can't. When I watched the network version of the show, you can't really hear the wrestlers cutting the promo. I think back then ECW didn't really have any really good production value like WCW or WWF at the time. It's just what it is. I think the production value was improved in later years, but back in the early 90s it was a bit trash. And mostly it felt like someone's filming the whole show with the camcorder. It's just what it is. I'm not bashing it. It's just trying to get my opinions out. Even though I was around. I was alive. I was born in 1994, but I wasn't around as a wrestling fan. I was at the time about about 5 months old at the time. I was born on the 2nd of June, 1994. Anyway, so then 911 went on to tag, I think, one of the suits of ties, and that was it. I don't know, that was really serving the purpose, I know it's not a pay-per-view, it's a supercar show. If it was a pay-per-view, I just save it on weekly TV. Don't really do it on a pay-per-view that at the time you spend a lot of money. Anyway, so the second segment, this revolves around the Sandman, his retirement. So in the summer of 1994, the Sandman and Tommy Dreamer had their feud. the build up to the show on the 4th of October's episode of Hardcore TV. Dreamer and the Sandman fought in an I Quit match. During this match, Sandman got blinded after a cigarette was in his eye. And yeah, on this I think this is also is built around with Tommy Cairo. I don't want to get into it, The storyline is on the Wikipedia page. It's just what it is. I don't want to talk about it, I just more focus on the pay-per-view. It's all the show itself. Anyway, so Sandman deserved to suffer the same fate as the Sandman, having beaten Cairo in the Dueling King match at Heatwave, the Heatwave '94, by the way. So yeah, he announced that he's gonna have a retirement speech on the show. He said he lost, he basically called a woman, he basically was talking shit towards Tommy Cairo, called woman a Black Widow. Woman, if you don't know, that is Nancy Sullivan, because at the time Nancy was married to Kevin Sullivan, and the future Nancy Benoit. Anyway, Sandman called her a Black Widow, and he said he lost his career, lost his eyesight, lost his broad, referring to Peaches. Peaches, that is Laurie Fullington. That is the real life wife of the Sandman. They ended up getting divorced. I think it was around the mid 2000s they got divorced. Anyway, so out comes Peaches. Sandman says, "I don't care how fat you are. I don't care how weight you gain, how much weight you gain. You're the most important person I needed." And then out comes Woman. Woman hits Peaches with the Singapore cane. Then she grabbed the mic from the hands of what's the name? Todd Gordon. Todd Gordon at the time was the president of ECW alongside Paul Heyman. Anyway, so a woman says she's got one more business to settle, and out comes Tommy Dreamer. Then Sandman, fake, he's being blind in one eye, attack Tommy Dreamer, and that was it. It's basically just setting up, really continuing the rivalry between Sandman and Tommy Dreamer. That's another story for another time. So that was the two segments on the show. I think the Sandman won. Sandman won. My apologies. Kind of served a purpose. 911 was kind of like choke slamming the guitarist, and one of the suits of ties didn't really serve any purpose. Anyway, so let's talk about the matches on the card. So 9 matches on the show. The first match to kick off, November to Remember '94. We got JT Smith, future member of the FBI. That's the Four-Blooded Italians for short, taking on Hack Myers. JT Smith really got booed out of the building. I think maybe he's just very bland and generic. He ended up turning heel, be part of the FBI. That was around 1996-ish. The match, not really a bad match. It was kind of short. It was last about 4 minutes long. JT Smith got the victory. Hit Hack Myers with a Northern Light Bridge suplex pin for the victory. And then afterwards, Hack Myers attacked JT Smith, and that was it. No, I don't say it was a bad match. I always give it bad matches. If I give this a star rating, I give it like 2.5. A slightly okay match. I'm not saying it was terrible, but this is not going to be like a 4-star instant classic. I give it like 1 star if it's like a really bad match. A half a star, like 2.5 stars. That'd be if it's a okay match. 2 stars, okay. 3 was a decent good match. Like 4 or 5. I'm not doing 6, man. This is not I'm not Dave Meltzer, by the way, so it's just what it is. I don't really do star ratings when I'm reviewing wrestling shows, whether it's ECW, WWE, WWF, WCW. It's just what it is. So anyway, let's get back to this not a pay-per-view, but a Supercar show review. Anyway, so the next match, This is a tag team match. We got the Bad Breed, that is Ian and Axel Rotten, taking on two members of the Pitbulls, that is Gary Wolf and Anthony Durant, the late Anthony Durant. Yeah, it's Pitbull. Yeah, they are Pitbull number one and Pitbull number two. Similar to the opener, JT Smith versus Hat Myers. I think it was an okay match, but it was too short in my opinion. But I don't really classify a bad match. It was filler. Yeah, it was filler, but I don't really classify it as a stinker. It's just kind of there. It's basically sizzle but no steak. In the end, the Pitbulls got the victory. I think it was Gary Wolf and Durant hit like an assisted powerbomb off the top rope onto, I think it was on Ian or Axel Rotten for the victory. And then afterwards, the Bad Breeds got their heat back onto the Pitbulls, blooding both Gary Wolf and Anthony Durant. And let's talk about Gary Wolf, man. Gary Wolf reminds me of Rhino. He's got that Rhino. I'm not saying Rhino went on to be a big star of ECW. Going to the final years of the original ECW's existence. He became the last television champion, the last original world champion before the company went under in 2001. But what I'm saying, he's got a similar build to Rhino, because they both wear singlets, They both got long hair, they both got facial hair. I'm talking about Terry Guerin and Gary Wolf, that's Pitbull number one. It's just it hits me like a hammer. When I watch this match, a Pitbull match in this time period, it got me thinking, wow, Gary Wolf's he didn't really look like facially wise. He don't look like Rhino, but with his build, his hairstyle, and his facial hair, wow, he looks like Rhino a bit. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, the Bad Breed beating down both the Pitbulls with the chain, bleeding them up in the process, so to get the heat back. So moving on to the next match. So the next match, we got Two Core Scorpio, the future Flash Funk in the WWF. That'll be around 96, 97-ish. Yeah, in 1998, I think he was in ECW for a bit, but I think he was ECW a bit. Then he went on to the WWF, and the rest is history. I don't know if he really went back to ECW, in the final years of the company's existence. I don't know. Anyway, he takes on Mr. Hughes. He basically confronted the ring announcer because he didn't announce his ring name. His ring name is the Roughneck. The match sucked. There's another match later on in the show, but I'm not going to talk about it. So the match sucked. Mr. Hughes, shit wrestler, but he's okay as a manager, but in a ring he just sucks. I think with Two Core Scorpio is a good worker, man. He did try to, give Mr. Hughes a passable match, but it wasn't. One more of the match, Scorpio was going for a sliding baseball sliding dropkick onto Hughes, but no connection. That was a notable botch. Anyway, so in the end, Two Core Scorpio got the victory, hit the Scorpio Splash onto Mr. Hughes for the win, and then afterwards you got Mr. Hughes, grabbed the mic, says, "I'm the Roughneck," and then Scorpio got the microphone, calling him a Mr. Shoe Sales Boy, something like that, took shit towards Mr. Hughes, then ended up brawling, and that was it. So I can't really hear what they're saying. I think you can't diss something like that. I don't know, man. I see the network version and the YouTube version of the show. It's night and day, but I don't want to talk about it. Otherwise, I'm trying to keep my reviews for this segments about shorter. So moving on to the next match. So the next match, we got the Battle of the Two Tommies. Tommy Cairo taking on Tommy Dreamer. This is the start of Tommy Dreamer's gimmick. He will do it to this day. Years later in WWE, in TNA, and right now TNA is now Impact Wrestling. The Elevator of Violence. He's wearing his T-shirt. in his matches. I think like he did, like he's, I think he, quit doing this wearing the spandex. Anyway, so the match was a fun brawl. It was an okay match for what it is, but that's not saying too much. In the end, they were fighting on the like in the Hack Myers JT Smith match from the opener. They were fighting in the crowd. This was kind of like a fun brawl for what it is. It's never going to be like a 4-star classic brawl. It was kind of an okay brawl. In the end, Tommy Dreamer kind of beat the piss out of Tommy Cairo, I think with the candlestick. And the match was ending in a stoppage, so Tommy Dreamer got the victory. Anything important. It was just basically progression of the character development of Tommy Dreamer. He'll become ECW World Champion. That was in the year 2000. That's another story. Another time, he became one of the you could say Tommy Dreamer is more of one of the Mount Rushmores of ECW. Alongside RVD, Sabu. You could say Sandman. That's another story for another time. There's 2 matches. In the network version, they put the ECW World Title match first, then the TV title match second. But I'm gonna go with the correct order. The next match I'm gonna talk about is, I don't know why the network put the ECW title first, then the TV title match second. That's just me. But anyway, so this is the first of 3 championship matches on the show. And this is for the ECW Television Championship. Dean Malenko with the sexiest man on earth, Jason, taking on the Tasmaniac. The Tasmaniac is Taz, the future human suplex machine. So, the build up to this, it's really funny. Rhino, not Rhino. I keep calling him Rhino for whatever reason. Malenko. He's not really an ECW guy. He's more social in WCW. He became a multiple-time cruiserweight champion, be part of the 4 Horsemen. Anyway, so Malenko won the Hardcore title the night before from Too Cold Scorpio. That was on Hardcore TV in Hamburg, Pennsylvania. I thought they did a show in Germany. No, it's in Pennsylvania. It was outside of Philly. So I done my research. He won it. He won the title the night before the Super Show. I don't really almost call it a pay-per-view, but it's not really a pay-per-view, by the way. So the match was good. I think it was the best match of the show. Even though it was 5 minutes long, but it was good for what it is. I like this match. I think they kind of gel. I think both guys kind of gel. Taz and Dean Malenko. Malenko is more of a technical style wrestler. Taz did the big power moves. In the end, Jason attacked Taz. Then Malenko kind of smothered Taz. I'm gonna call him Taz. I know he's the Tasmaniac, but I'm just gonna call him Taz. He'll be on his way, shortening his name as Taz. That was around 95, 96-ish. Anyway, so in the end, Malenko smothered Taz with the white towel. I think he kind of put some kind of chemicals onto the towel to smother him, to knock him out. Malenko won this match and retained the television title, which they went a little longer. I think there's some chemistry between Taz and Dean Malenko. I'll give it you could say the second best match of the night. There's one match I'm going to talk about later on. So moving on to the ECW World Heavyweight Championship match. The franchise Shane Douglas defending the belt against Ron Simmons. Ron Simmons at this moment in time. It's very funny that Ron Simmons, former first black WCW World Champion. That was in 1992 against Vader in August of that year. Fast forward 2 years later, he's no longer with WCW. He left the company. He had this is a pit stop. He goes. He spent in 1994. He spent most of the time in New Japan. Then this is his pit stop to ECW. Then he ended up leaving ECW, he ended up going to the WWF. That'll be in 1996, and the rest is history. Anyway, so Simmons says, "I don't care about the city of Philadelphia. You don't give a shit about Philly. I don't care about the people. All I care about beat his ass and take the title." The match between Shane Douglas and Ron Simmons sucked. I found it was a bit boring to me. The chemistry between Simmons and Shane Douglas, it's non-existent. I'm not saying it's a bad match. It was a little bit disappointed. I think it's the worst title match on the show. I put the TV title match in the middle. But anyway, so um, there's no, like I said, no chemistry between Shane Douglas and Ron Simmons. Ron Simmons is a big powerhouse. Shane Douglas is a good athlete, but there's no chemistry. And no, this is a heel versus heel. I think in his time in ECW, Ron Simmons was teaming up with Two Core Scorpio, and it's kind of confusing. The show is kind of confusing. I'll get to my overall thoughts of the show in the end. Anyway, so the match was okay-ish. In the end, Shane Douglas rolled up Ron Simmons for the win, retained the ECW World Heavyweight Championship. Then Simmons beat down Shane, Two Core Scorpio joining the beatdown, and that was it. And yeah, so and afterwards, you had Joey Styles interviewing Shane Douglas, and Shane was basically talking shit towards Hulk Hogan. You say wrestling was destroyed in 14 years of his career, something like that. I can't remember. Yeah, he's called Hulk Hogan Hulkashitta Mania, referring Hulk Hogan's real name, Terry Bollea. He kind of challenged Two Core Scorpio and Ron Simmons to a match, and his tag team partner is Stunning Steve Austin. And because at this moment in time, Austin's career in WCW is coming at an end. You know the story. He got fired by Bischoff. He injured his tricep, and I don't want to get into it. I'm talking about briefly. He ended up going to ECW. I think it's around 1995-ish, and he stayed there for a cup of coffee, and then he ended up going to the WWF in the early parts of 1996, and the rest is history. So. Moving on to the third and final championship match on the show. This is a brawl game match for the ECW World Tag Team Championships. Cactus Jack, aka Mick Foley, defending the belt against the future ECW World Champion Mikey Whipwreck, taking on the Public Enemy, the late Public Enemy, that is Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge. For me, I thought this was going to be a clusterfuck of a match, But for me, I think it was a good match, and just in my opinion, this is technically the match of the night for me. The reason why I say I thought this was going to be a clusterfuck, because basically Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge are getting pissed off by the fans. I feel like later on there was another match. They kind of rip off one of the fans' hats. It was a guy wearing a Hawaiian T-shirt and a cowboy hat. I think the straw hat guy, they kind of ripped his hat. Anyway, so they're getting pissed off by the fans. They're about to leave. And then the referee told them to get back in the ring. So they went back to the ring. Basically the rules of this match, this is similar to a tag team match I reviewed in my TNA Victory Road 2004 review. I reviewed about a couple of weeks ago. I'll get to that later on. Basically, the first rules of here's the rules of this game I'm trying to say. You have to knock out your opponent first. If one of your opponents fail to get up with the count at 10, you get a chance to use the bat. So basically, you had the Public Enemy throw white powder into the face of Cactus Jack, and Cactus Jack accidentally hit Mikey Whipwreck, his tag team partner, with the double underhook DDT. So Public Enemy, Whipwreck failed to get out of the count of 10, so Public Enemy used the bat. I think both of them, or one of them, bled buckets, They were fighting on the Eagle's Nest, and then you got like Sabu and 911 and Paul Heyman, One of them I think it was Sabu. It's been a couple of days since I watched the show. I think it was Sabu. Sabu kind of pushed Rocco Rock uh, off the Eagle's Nest and through the table, and then I think Cactus Jack. Um, I think it was Cactus Jack. I'm not too sure. Um, put Johnny Grums through the table off the Eagle's Nest. They were fighting in the crowd. In the end, one of the Public Enemy members, I think it was Rocco Rock or Johnny Grunge, hit Mikey Whipwreck with the bat off the top rope for the win. Public Enemy became the tag team championships. Tag team champions. My apologies, bit of a tongue twisting moment. So I just say it to the heart. So and yeah, let's get. And that was it. So and afterwards, Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, cut a promo. They won the rematch for the tag team title belts. And yeah, let's go. I compare. Yeah, the reason why is I compared this match to another tag team match in this stipulation at TNA Victory Road 2004. A decade later, between American Most Wanted versus Triple X. I think this match from ECW November to November 94 is way better than that match from Victory Road 04. I think the reason why, because yes, it was a brawl, it was a fun brawl. They didn't have this rule that if you fail to get up at the count of 10, you're the other, like, one member of the tag team gets eliminated. In this match, you basically fail to get up at the count of 10. Your opponent gets a opportunity with the bat. So I think it was really okayish than the American Most Wanted Triple X match from TNA Victory Road 04 a decade later. So anyway, I done my research how they won the tag team title belts. I think Mikey Whipwreck was in his 20s at the time. And it's really funny that the following year he ended up becoming the ECW World Champion. That'll be another story for another time. Rick Wreck, Rick Wreck. It's funny, Rick Wreck and Cactus Jack, won the belts. This is a NWA World Title Tournament that was in August of 1994. That was a few months ago, and Public Enemy won the belts on the show. They ended up dropping the titles to Sabu and the Tasmaniac on the at double tables in February the following year. So that's another story for another time. Let's move on to the main event. So the main event, we got Sabu with 911 and Paulie Dangerously, aka Paul Heyman, taking on Chris Benoit. So this match is got to be the worst match of the night, and I think this is the shortest match of the night. This lasts about 2 minutes. On paper sounds good. The reason why I say it's bad, the start of this match, Benoit hit like a botch, awkwardly back body drop. I call it a flapjack, onto Sabu. Sabu land on his head, and the match was automatically stopped. Unfortunately, it's really sad that was a bad match. On paper that could be a good match. I know Sabu's known for botches, but I feel like him and Benoit could really pull up a good match. Unfortunately, accidents happen. I think he injured his spinal cord. If they made it into a storyline, that'd be like absolute stupid, and tacky, because like WWF did like this storyline with China and the writer censor in 2001 when they, in the end of 2000, they power drive China. China did an interview with Jim Ross. She was breaking down, got emotional. I hate that type of storyline because it's so tacky and tasteless, because a lot of wrestlers, or some wrestlers, they suffered neck injuries. They end up missed a lot of years of their careers, and also retired altogether. Great example, Darren Droz. He got his neck broken by D'Lo Brown, and he's in a wheelchair. I don't like this type of storylines in pro wrestling. If it's like the arm or the leg, that'll be fine. But doing this type of storylines, it's revolve around the neck A great example, Tyson Kidd got his neck broken by Samoa Joe. You know, I don't like that. You know, if it's the knee or the leg, I'll be fine. But doing a storyline with the neck, nah, it's not. That's very bad. So anyway, so out comes like the ECW locker room. Like I think you got the Public Enemy, Too Cool Scorpio, Taz. You know, and I feel like Scorpio challenged Benoit. Benoit grabbed the mic, says, "This is the great Sabu. He can't fight his own battles." So, so let's move on to this Improv 2 main event. Chris Benoit versus Too Cool Scorpio. 12 minutes. This match lasted about 12 minutes long. Yeah, it's funny. Like in the Shane Douglas Ron Simmons match, this match was 6 minutes. You know, I thought it was about 12 minutes, but unfortunately that's not the case. Anyway, so the match between Benoit and Too Cool Scorpio, it was starting to be like a good. It's turned into a fucking lumberjacks match, but instead I don't know. By the way, I'm not gonna rate this match. You know, it didn't do nothing for me. You know, because they're kind of filling in for what happened to Sabu. Anyway, they were fighting. They were kind of like, it was more like a brawl. It was an okay match, you know, but in the end, Benoit kind of threw Too Cool Scorpio through a table near the barricade, and the match ended in a double count out. That was a shit way to end the show. Then afterwards, you know, I think Scorpio called Benoit a piece of shit, you know, for what he did to Sabu. I can't really hear what Cactus Jack Mick Foley says because the tech problems, that was a bit bad. And that was it. So, anyway, my overall reign for ECW November to Remember 1994. Hard to really save it. This was not a good show, but I almost give it 5.5. But reality, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. This is not a good show. Not really a stinker of a show, but really mediocre and shit. The only thing in the bad for me was Mr. Hughes versus Too Cool Scorpio. Benoit and Sabu, that was bad because of Sabu's injury. But besides that, some of these matches were okay-ish. They're not bad, we're just kind of there. Including the ECW World Title match between Shane Douglas versus Ron Simmons. But besides that, you know, it was okay-ish. The only matches, the two matches in the good for me were, you know, I know it's briefly. You know, I know the match was a bit shorter. You know, I like the TV title match between Dean Malenko versus Taz. And the match tonight for me is the Brawl Games match between Cactus Jack, Mikey Whipwreck versus the Public Enemy. They didn't make me to go, wow, I need to go back to watch November to Remember 94. No, they were good matches, you know, it didn't really save the show, but I don't really call it a stinker. The Benoit Scorpio match, like I said, I'm not gonna put it in a okay or bad. To be frankly, didn't do nothing for me. You know, while I'm watching this is 2023. This is not 1994. But you know, they're kind of filling up, you know, for what happened to Sabu. But yeah, it was a shit way to get the fans go home happy. They go home a bit shitty. That's just, yeah, I'd rather skip this show overall cost, man. So hope you enjoy my review of ECW November to Remember 1994. What's your thoughts on it? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Smash like button, click the like, click the bell, subscribe to the Central Man Network on YouTube. Be part of the Central Unit for more wrestling videos and more. And this is the Central Man officially signing out.